I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, October the 6th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is fast-acting, small dose, easy to use, with a short withdrawal. It's made in North America. It's effective to Lathromycin injection with an affordable upfront price. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. Another big sale for them here on Monday for their feeder cattle auction. It starts at 6:30 in the morning. They're expecting 5,500 head. I bet they beat that. They usually underestimate. But going to have a good sale there. There'll be all classes there, guys. They had a special cow sale last Thursday afternoon. It was well attended there. It said full crowd on hand there. The bred cows sell from mostly $3,500 to $4,000 a head, with one package of fancy bred cows at $4,400. Didn't have quite as many cow-calf pairs as they've been having at those specials, but those on hand brought $3,800 to $4,550. Now, if you want to have your calves ready for the wean vac special at Joplin Regional Stockyards in December, that's a sale that a lot of people like to get their calves to if they're going to wean them and give them all their shots. It's a top sale. Your date to get those calves weaned for the 60-day weaning is today. You need to get those calves weaned today if you want them on 60 days. 45 days will be coming up here October the 20th. So be getting those calves weaned and get the shots in them so that you can have them qualifying for that wean vac special in December. For more information about all the programs at Joplin, go to joplinstockyards.com. And like always, you can view and bid every sale at Joplin at DVAuction.com. Feedlots shuttered, and it probably wouldn't surprise you, but indeed it's happening. Here in the Texas Panhandle, especially around the Hereford area, there have been several feedlots that have been closed up. But most of the ones that I've heard of that have closed have been part of bigger operations, and that was just one location that they closed up, usually a smaller location, and they just moved everything to the main location. But they are closing facilities, and I mean, there's just not that many cattle on feed down here anymore, and they're mostly growing weeds in those pens. A lot of the feedlots, they've still got cattle in most of the pens. They've just got them scattered out. They're not nearly as concentrated in the pens. They've got all kinds of room to do what they want. But, you know, we're just that short of cattle. And that's a result of the Mexico border being shut down for this long now. A lot of those cattle have been moved out of the yard, have finished, went on the show list and sold, and haven't been replaced back. The Texas Panhandle feedlots are not very keen on getting up to the edge of their seat and bidding those northern feedlot buyers away. And you know, they didn't like the cattle aren't working as well. They didn't get excited about buying them, and they don't have any of them. Of course, their feed costs are a little higher down here in the Texas Panhandle. It's arid, and the cattle usually feed better through the winter because we don't have as much mud, and the snow doesn't last as long. But they just haven't been pushing on the cattle market, and haven't been replacing those cattle in there. Now, that's likely not going to change anything. It's not going to be a big shock to the market one way or the other or anything. The futures market's not going to you know, swoon one way or the other from that news that feedlots are closing. But it's not going to be long before we see a major packing plant close. I don't know which one's going to close first, but it's going to have to happen. They're not moving enough cattle to those plants to cover their fixed costs. And when they're not moving very many cattle through there, then the fixed costs move to the average of how many they're killing. I mean, it's unbelievably, you know, just not very efficient. So they'd be better off killing more cattle in certain plants than the others. Now they're probably going to have to lay people off or let them go, and that's going to be a bad deal. But it's bound to happen here, guys. They're not killing enough cattle here to. They're almost, you know, from when we were killing cattle at peak efficiency of those plants, we're nearly 100,000 a week down. So, you know, they could sure trim a plant or two. Now, when something like that gets announced, oh my gosh, you know, we're going to see all kinds of news come out, and everything's going to shake up the markets there. But it should just as much when we say that feedlots are closing, but it probably won't. Now, of course, the border's still closed to cattle coming across in Mexico there. But we're still hearing Mexican officials here, there, yonder, talking about that it's going to open, and they think it's going to open in November. But until Secretary Rollins says something about that, it's not going to happen. But I wouldn't doubt that it won't open maybe after the first of the year, during the cold spell there. You come up into you know, the northern part of Mexico there, and it still gets cold enough to take care of most of those screw worms there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see it happen then. But your Mexican cattle people still don't act like they're really in a rush to get anything done there. In fact, the cartel probably wants to keep it closed. They got one main plant down there. Of course, the smoke's blowing out of all the smokestacks in that plant, and they're getting those cattle bought at a big discount, and they're flush with meat in Mexico. Of course, they're getting all that grinding meat from Brazil and some of those places that used to send it over here, but now the tariffs have stopped that from happening. So they've got all kinds of meat in Mexico, and we're just not seeing any rush. You know, they can't even get the cattle people in Mexico to stop moving the cattle around. And that was the big thing about this latest case that we heard that was only 70 miles south of the United States. Those cattle had just been moved up from Central America. Now, why are they doing that? They shouldn't be doing that. They don't want to do that. They're trying to put plans in place to make sure that everybody's getting their cattle wormed. They don't even want to do that. So, you know, it's hard for our Texas cattle feeders, but you can't feel that sorry for the, you know, Mexico producers. You would think they would get together and get something done about this, but evidently they're not. Last week's fed cattle market continued lower. I wouldn't say we're in a free fall yet, but we've lost considerable ground on your finished cattle there. The futures, especially on feeder cattle, were extremely volatile, but by the end of the week we didn't see a big change on there. But man, the feeder cattle futures just swing one way and then the next and back and forth, and we're not in a bastard month. We're in a real month here that's going to have to come to meet the cash index price at the end of it. But man, they like to swing that thing to and fro. It's very shallow contract there, so you know you can if you trade very many of them, you can make it move quite a bit. But the feeder cattle in your auctions were sharply lower in the middle of the week, but early in the week and late in the week, not too much. In fact, I'm going to give you some prices late in the week that are as high as we've ever had and higher. Crawford Livestock Market in Crawford, Nebraska had a big sale, special sale on Friday. They broke a bunch of national records with all-time high prices. So, you know, your farmer feeders are coming in, the fancy calves are getting here. Grain's not worth much, and they want to walk that grain to town, guys. I want to tell you about a special sale that's happening in Faith, South Dakota at the Faith Livestock Auction here today. They got a big calf sale there. It's a special, guys, and it's going to be a big one. And they have 5,000 or more there. Then most of those calves will have their fall and spring shots. The quality will be absolutely outstanding. They're going to start weigh-ups at 8 o'clock in the morning here today on Monday. A few bred cows at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then yearlings and calves to follow. Check in on that sale. If you can't get an order buyer there, or if you can't get there yourself, get on to DVAuction.com and check out that sale at Faith, South Dakota, at the Faith Livestock Auction. One of their first big calf specials, and it might be one of the better ones. Let's talk about your board for last week. October live cattle futures. Monday was down. It was just up, down, down, up, down, up, down. Monday was down 47. Tuesday was up 52. Wednesday was down 75. Thursday was down 57. Friday was up 50. Ended the week on October live cattle at 231.02, down just 78 cents for the week. December live cattle ended the week at 234.50, up 20 cents. So not much really going on in your live cattle pits there. October feeder cattle contracts, Monday was down 80, Tuesday up 482, Wednesday down 205, Thursday down 467, Friday up 287. October feeder cattle ended the week at 357.17. It's actually up 17 cents for the week. November ended the week at 355.42, up 95 cents for the week. Your grains, corn, December new crop corn futures ended the week at 419, which was down 3 cents a bushel. November beans ended the week at 1018. That was up 4 1/4 cents a bushel. And your hard red winter wheat for December ended the week last week at 497, up 8.5 cents a bushel. Your fat cattle trade up through Thursday of last week at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they shut off reporting. And luckily they have deemed that essential market reporting there, so the government shutdown's not affecting that. It is affecting your NAS, your ag statistics, so we're not getting those reports. But as far as up-to-date market news, we are getting those still. Through Thursday of last week, 27,700 head had sold in your 4-area feeding region there. Your live prices on fat steers and heifers range from $227 to $233. That was $3 to $4 lower. Weighted average on live steers up through Thursday there, $229.96, down $252 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Dress prices from $353 to $360. That was $5 to $7 lower last week, with a weighted average on dress steers at $359.72, down 5 1/4. Now Friday we had a little bit of additional sales confirmed there, but we had most all of our additional sales in the Southern Plains on Friday after the reporting stopped. So, but I'll tell you everything I know there. Iowa sold 1,200 head confirmed, 14,500 head for the week. Live price in Iowa, $228 to $230, $4 to $5 lower. Dress price $358, be $7 lower. Nebraska sold about 100 head, is all confirmed through government reporting there. 14,150 for the week. The only price they showed on Friday was $357 dressed. They did sell cattle in the Southern Plains. They hadn't sold much of anything all through last week, but then Friday late in the day, I heard through many of my private sources and contacts that they did sell cattle in Kansas and Texas. The price was a premium to the north, ranging from $232 to $234, mostly $233, and that would be $4 lower than the previous week, guys. But box beef cutout values sharply lower. I mean, we've lost a ton of ground on our box beef cutout values. Your weighted average for all of last week's choice cut sales, $367.13, down $9.46 for the week. Your late Friday afternoon market was $362.27, another $5 lower than that weighted average. The weighted average on all of last week's select cuts, $346.36, down $10.50 from the previous week's weighted average. And your late Fridays were another almost $1 lower at 345.38. Your choice select spread on the weighted average was $20.77. All that information on 685 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, and that's not too bad of a movement, really. Your slaughter, 557,000 estimated cattle slaughter last week, 2,000 less, or 2,000 more actually than the previous week, 55,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. If you like the feeder flash, but you have trouble finding it on a regular basis and you're tired of looking for it, it can be texted to you every morning automatically. All you have to do is text the word flash to 209 Corbitt or 209-267-2488. You text flash to that number, send that text, and then they will automatically text you a link to the feeder flash, the latest edition of the feeder flash, every business morning. You won't have to go searching for it anymore, guys. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They're working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer, ended the week last week at 361.24. That was down $5.84 compared to the end of the previous week. Now your steer tracker, now that's a 7-day moving average, your real-time index, but the steer tracker is the average of your last 25 lots of 5 or more going in there into the index there. It was sitting at 372.16, so late there was a little upswing in the market. But the latest available CME cash feeder cattle index was 362.57. Let's talk about your trends in your sale barn last week. Feeder cattle sold $5 to $15 lower. And Tuesday and Wednesday was the worst days to have a sale last week. It just runs like that sometimes. Sometimes it's rough on Monday, sometimes it's rough late in the week. But last week it was the middle of the week, which was worse, so we saw the most pressure on your market there. But your calves, and it's getting the difference between your high quality calves and your plainer calves is getting bigger all the time. Calf market on plain calves was $10 to $20 lower last week. High quality ranch calves, fancy kind, even if they are unweaned, which most all the calves going through the sales right now are unweaned, they were unevenly steady. Not bad. I tell you what, they just, nobody's weaning their calves right now. They want to get them to the sale barn and sell them as quick as they can. And it's not fair, but if you've got hodgepodge cows and you've got plainer calves, they're just not going to bring nearly as much as those real uniform bigger bunches of ranch-raised calves. Guys come in there, one iron deals, and like I said, even if they're unweaned, most all of them are unweaned, but you sure got to have the spring shots in them, and it'd be better if you had fall and spring shots in them, including a red nose there. But we had one of the most outstanding calf sales, I guess, that's ever happened, because we've never seen big calf specials at this kind of market levels yet. But my friends at Crawford Livestock Market, that's Rich and Alicia Robertson there, they had one whale of a sale on Friday. They had 4,700 head for their calf special, and I mean, these weighted averages that I'm going to give you on these different weights of steers, the sale was 2/3 steers, and it was just unbelievably high. And I'm sure the quality was top notch. But Crawford was your superior steel sales, home of superior standard livestock equipment, stick out sale of the day. And listen to these weighted averages within these 100-pound weight groups, guys. It's just going to shock you. They had 379 steers in the 4-weight category. They averaged 461 with a weighted average price of $542.26. Wow. Had 809 head of 5-weight steers. They averaged 547 at 505.93. It's hard to get any 5-weight calves over $5 a pound. They had over 800 of them. They averaged near 5.5 at nearly 506. It's unbelievable. 919 head of 6-weight steer calves averaged 634 at 463.89. 327 head of the 7 weights averaged 730 pounds at 417.20, and they had 118 head of 8-weight steers. They averaged 830 at 390.86. The heifers were not nearly as well tested. Like I said, it was 2/3 steers. They did have several replacement heifers there weighing in the light 5 category there. There was 137 of them. They averaged 516 pounds, replacement heifers at 472.46. So I'm going to give you, they're indeed going to be our top quotes, a couple of individual quotes I got from Crawford there, but I'll give you those at the tail end of the report. Going to give you several individual quotes from all over the circuit. How about St. On's livestock? Just a little ways north of Crawford there. They had a special on Friday, sold 72 steer calves, weighed 469 at $5.50 a pound. Wow. How about Lanesboro Sales Commission in Lanesboro, Minnesota? They sold 76 dairy steers, weighed 479 at $4 a pound. Wow. How about Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond, Kentucky? Way out east there, guys. They sell 54 steers, weighed 909 at $349. That's not much cheaper. How about St. Francis, Kansas Stockyard at St. Francis, Kansas there? They sell 70 steers, weighed 859 pounds at $375.75. This is an impressive quote, and I want to talk a little bit about it. Fort Pierre Livestock Auction in Fort Pierre, South Dakota sells 104 steer calves. That's just a big load of them, weighing 500 pounds smooth. They bring 528. Wow. That is $2,640 a piece. It makes that load worth $275,000 for one truckload of cattle, guys. And it's hard to convince your banker if you want to background some calves. He might give you, I'm going to give you $250,000. I can't quite buy a load of fancy calves for that, banker. Unbelievable. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere late last week or over the weekend, and your Macrocin, no BS, top quotes for the day, come out of Crawford Livestock Market in Crawford, Nebraska. I had to give you both of them. Both had to be done. How about 65 steers, weighed 6 1/4 at $478? Have you ever heard such a thing? No, you haven't. And another quote that is unbelievable: 72 steers, weighed 814 at $401. We've only seen 8-weight steers break $4 a pound in one other market this fall, and that was 3 or 4 weeks ago, guys. But that's your feeder flash for Monday.